Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be doing the pre-release for the HYDRO ARCHON Coming in 4.2 FURINA. Now, as always with pre-releases, they do contain links of information that they haven't released yet, so if you're not interested in links, then I don't recommend watching this video. But if you don't mind leaks, then as always, take everything that I'm about to talk about as subject to change, because since she hasn't officially released yet, there is a possibility that they could add more changes to her kit. It's very unlikely, but again, there is that possibility, so definitely keep that in mind. And now, without further ado, let's get right into it, starting with her normal attack, Solace Salutation. At level 9, her normal attack performs up to 4 consecutive strikes. Charge attack consumes a certain amount of stamina to unleash a solo dance, dealing physical damage to nearby opponents and charging her arc alignment. If Salon members or Singer of Many Waters summoned by her elemental skill Salon Solitaire are present, their lineup will switch in response. Arc, Seats, Sacred, and Sucklier. At intervals, when Furina's normal attacks hit, a Spirit Breath Thorn or a Surging Blade will descend based on her current alignment, dealing Hydro damage based on her current alignment. Where Furina takes the field, her starting arc will be Osaya. And these are the damage numbers for her normal attack at level 9. Pretty okay normal scalings for her normal attack. Moving on to her elemental skill. Now, this is a pretty long text, but I'll explain in the end. Her skill, Sullen Solitaire, invites the guests of the Sullen Solitaire to come forth and obey in Furina's performance. Will summon either the Salon members or the Singer of Many Waters based on Furina's current arc alignment. Osaya, forming bubbles like celebrants shall dance, dealing AoE Hydro damage based on Furina's max HP, and summoning 3 Salon members, the Ball Octopus, the Bubbly Seahorse, and the Armored Crab. They will attack nearby opponents at intervals, prioritizing the target of the active character, dealing Hydro damage based on her max HP. When they attack, if characters with more than 50% HP are nearby, the members will increase their current attack's power based on the number of such characters, and consume said character's HP. If the characters who meet these requirements are 1, 2, 3, and 4 or more, the member's attack will deal 110% up to 140% of their original damage. The second element, Phronemia, summons the Singer of Many Waters, who will heal nearby active characters based on max HP at intervals. Okay, that's basically straightforward. The Salon members and Singer of Many Waters share a duration, and when Furina uses her charge attack to change the guest's type, the new guest will inherit the initial duration. While the Salon members and the Singer of Many Waters are on the field, Furina can move on the water surface. Okay, now let me explain how this really works. She's basically a summoner type character where it has basically 2 forms of these type of Hydro characters that she summons. The first one, which is the default one, whenever you use her skill, the Osaya one, she basically summons these 3 different Hydro creatures where they deal AoE Hydro damage to the target that the active character is prioritizing, where the damage is based off her max HP, but it can be further increased by consuming your character's HP, making them deal a lot more damage. And whenever you use her charge attack, it will summon the Singer of Many Waters, which is meant to heal your character from the HP consumption that the Salon members take from you to increase their own damage. As you can see here, the duration is 30 seconds, and these are the different scalings that the damage scales off of. As you can see, some of them do less damage, but some of them do more damage. And you can see here the HP consumption, and you can see it's a lot of HP. And this is how much HP does the Singer of Many Waters heals you back up for 8.16% of her max HP, which is pretty nice. But the main thing here is that the cooldown is 20 seconds, which basically allows you to keep permanent uptime on her skill, which is actually pretty good. Another thing about her elemental skill is that the damage that the Salon members deal isn't as consistent in terms of Hydro application, where it basically isn't that good compared to like Xingqiu or Yolan. Now granted, it is AoE and is still pretty good, but if you're running a team count that basically utilizes, let's say, Hyper Bloom or Bloom related reactions, then it's kind of important to utilize a character that increases the elemental reaction damage, but also the on-field character's damage as well. But when you take into account like the amount of HP that it takes from you, it could be a lot. However, the main value that the HP consumption that this gets comes from the active buff that you get from her elemental burst, which I will go into now. Her elemental burst, Let the People Rejoice, at level 9, reuses the impulse to revel, creating a stage of foam that will deal AoE Hydro damage based on Furina's max HP and cause nearby party members to enter the universal reveral state. During this time, when nearby party members' HP increases or decreases, 1 fanfare point will be granted to Furina for each percentage point of their max HP by which their HP changes. At the same time, Furina will increase the damage dealt by an incoming healing bonus of all party members based on the amount of fanfare she has. When the duration ends, Furina fanfare points will be cleared. So the damage from her burst is kinda whatever. The buff that you get from this lasts for about 18 seconds. The amount of fanfare points you can get is 300, and the damage increase that you get per point of fanfare is 0.23%, where if you take into account the amount of damage increase that she can give you, and the amount of damage increase that she can give you at max fanfare points is about 69%, which is very nice indeed. And the amount of healing bonus that she can give you is about 27%. The cooldown of her elemental burst is 15 seconds, which again allows you to get permanent uptime if you were to have a good amount of energy recharge for her, which should be easy because the energy cost is at 60, which is pretty low, allowing you to consistently have this buff active. However, we do have to consider of how it actually functions, considering that each of the different creatures that she summons consumes a good chunk of your character's HP. It's gonna be pretty bad if your character does not benefit from having their HP decrease at a pretty significant rate, where in this case, based on how FURINA functions, it basically already tells of who can basically utilize her at the maximum potential, and that top character is definitely Neverlet, because the way that Neverlet functions is he consumes a pretty good chunk of his HP at consistent intervals, but also regains his HP at a good amount pretty quickly, which basically allows him to get the full amount of damage increase that you can get from FURINA's fanfare. Now, besides Neverlet, who else can utilize FURINA's buff? Considering that she does take a pretty good chunk of HP from your character at a constant rate, the only other characters that can be good is Wesley, because he can decrease his HP pretty fast. However, there can be some situations where, like, if his HP decreases below 50, his normal attacks is gonna lose a lot of damage bonus, but if his HP is decreasing at a pretty constant rate, or at the same time he gains damage increase from FURINA's buff, it can mitigate and replace the issues for him being below 50%, and also allows him to basically get his enhanced charge attack without fully losing a lot of damage increase on his normal attacks. Now, besides Neverlet and Wesley, who else can utilize her? The only other two characters that basically consumes their HP is Xiao and Hu Tao. Now, with concerns with Xiao, he can be a pretty good character to utilize FURINA's buff, considering he does consume his HP at a pretty constant rate. But considering that your HP has to basically change dramatically in order to get the full utilization of her damage buff, Xiao won't be the best, considering that he also has Farasan, but nonetheless, considering that Xiao's HP does change kind of consistently, FURINA can be a good option for Xiao. Now, in terms of Hu Tao, I don't really see her being a great support for Hu Tao. Yeah, she does gain damage from consuming her HP, but considering that your HP has to change constantly to get the full utilization of her buff, and Hu Tao doesn't really have that and only can do that from the HP consumption of the Hydro characters that FURINA spawns from her elemental skill, then Hu Tao won't really get that much of a damage increase from FURINA's HP consumption and also her own consumption. But nonetheless, she is still a pretty good support nonetheless, considering she is a Hydro character, and Hydro as an element is honestly one of the best elements in the entire game. It's kind of hard to not want to use FURINA, but nonetheless, the buff is kind of hard for a lot of the other characters, considering that to get a good amount of the buff, your HP has to change not only from the HP consumption from FURINA's skill, but also from your own kit, which is why the main two characters that can fully utilize FURINA's buff to the max is Neverlet and Wesley, and possibly Xiao and Hu Tao. Moving on to her passives. Her first one, Endless Vault. When the active character in your party receives healing, if the source of the healing is not FURINA herself and the healing overflows, then FURINA will heal a nearby party member for 2% of their max HP once every 2 seconds within the next 4 seconds. Okay, so a nice extra source of healing. Her second passive, Unheard Confession. Every 1000 points of FURINA's max HP can buff the different Archon line Solemn Solitaire in the following ways. Will increase Salon member damage dealt by 0.7% up to a maximum of 28%, and also decrease the active character healing interval of the Singer of Many Waters by 0.4% up to a maximum of 16%. Okay, so more damage for her skill characters, a more consistent healing. Overall, pretty nice passive, I would say. Not really that massive, but still pretty pretty nice. Moving on to her constellation, if you're interested in pulling multiple copies of FURINA, her C1, when using her elemental burst, FURINA will gain 150 fanfare. Additionally, FURINA's fanfare limit is increased by 100. So for her C1, it basically allows her to increase her damage buff from 69% to 92%, which is really nice, and her healing bonus from 27% to 36%, which is also pretty good. But again, I wouldn't really say that's massive, it's just a nice damage and healing bonus increase. Her C2, while her burst lasts, FURINA's fanfare gain from increases or decreases in nearby character's HP is increased by 250%. Each point of fanfare above the limit will increase FURINA's max HP by 0.35%. Her maximum max HP increase is 140%. So her C2 basically allows to get the damage buff basically faster and also give her a lot of extra HP, which will also increase the skill damage from her salon members' damage. Again, a pretty nice buff, but not one I would say is a must get. Her C4, when the salon members from Salon Solitaire hit an opponent, or the singer of many waters restores HP to the active character, FURINA will restore 4 energy. This effect triggers once every 5 seconds. Okay, so a nice extra source of energy. So far her constellation hasn't really been that huge except for like possibly her C2, but nonetheless it isn't really that must get, I would say. They're pretty nice, but again, not really ones to go for. And now moving on to her C6, and holy f that's a lot of text, and I am going to read it out for you. C6. When using the elemental skill Salon Solitaire, FURINA gains center of attention for 10 seconds. Throughout the duration, FURINA's normal attacks, charge attacks, and plunging attacks are converted into hydro damage, which cannot be overridden by any other elemental infusion. Damage is also increased by an amount equivalent to 50% of FURINA's max HP. Throughout the duration, FURINA's normal attacks, charge attacks, and the impact of plunging attacks will cause different effects up to 0.1 seconds after hitting opponents depending on her current arc alignment. Osaya, every 1 second, all nearby characters in the party will be healed by 4% of FURINA's max HP for a duration of 2.5 seconds. Triggering this effect again will extend its duration. Funma, this normal attack, charge attack, or plunging attack ground impact damage will be further increased by an amount equivalent to 20% of FURINA's max HP. When any of the attacks mentioned previously hit an opponent, all nearby attacks in the party will consume 1% of their current HP. Through the duration of each instance of Center of Attention, the above effects can be triggered up to 7 times. Center of Attention will end when its effects have triggered 7 times or when the duration expires. Okay, so basically the easy way to explain this is that this allows her to be a Hydro on-fielder. It converts her normal attacks into Hydro damage, allowing her to apply Hydro more consistently, allows her to deal more damage and also more healing. It's really whatever, I would say. It's really not that massive if you want her to be an on-field damage dealer or an on-field hydro applicator, but nonetheless it's really whatever, I would say. Moving on to FURINA's 5-star weapon. Now this isn't her 5-star weapon, I really can't show it just in case Mihoyo wants to copy strike this video, but nonetheless her 5-star sword, the substat is crit damage at 88.2% crit damage, which is very nice because that's the highest crit damage substat that you can get. And the passive, Dawn and Dust by the Lake, when the equipping character's current HP increases or decreases, elemental skill damage dealt will be increased by 8% for 6 seconds. Max 3 stacks. This effect can be triggered once every 0.2 seconds. When other party members' current HP increases or decreases, the current character's max HP will be increased by 14% for 6 seconds. Max 2 stacks. This effect can be triggered once every 0.2 seconds and can be triggered even if the wielder is off field. Okay, so basically more HP, more skill damage, just a nice damage buff, I would say. Now, other than her signature 5-star, what other weapons can be useful for FURINA? In terms of 5 stars, definitely the key because it's HP and also the passive is very useful for her. Other than that, in terms of the other crit stat weapons, I would say the only one that's useful is J Cutter, because not only do you get a whole lot of crit rate, but the passive is also beneficial for her kit because it gives you HP, and yes, it does gives you attack, but nonetheless, depending on the stats that you're trying to farm for, the amount of crit rate that you get can be very useful and a nice extra source of HP on the side. And the other 5-star weapon that you can use as like a supportive weapon will be Freedom Sworn, not really for the main stat but mainly for the passive. The only way you can utilize the main stat is only really if you're utilizing her in Bloom teams, but nonetheless the passive is still very nice. In terms of 4 stars, there's really not that many options to go for. If you have the Doctor's Hand, then yeah, it can be useful. It has HP as a main stat. The passive can be nice if, again, you're utilizing her in elemental reaction teams. Other than that, I would say Fezeric Desire is a good option. because not only does it increase her elemental skill damage, but also the crit rate if you do have it. But out of all of those options, I would say the best weapon to go for is Favonius Sword because it's ER, gives you ER for the rest of your characters. Definitely the best weapon to go for regardless. Moving on to artifacts, her best in slot artifact set is going to be Golden Trope because considering the only source of damage that she has is from her elemental skill, then Golden Trope would definitely be the best in slot set to increase her overall damage. But if you want an overall good build to put on her, then you can give her double HP set or HP and healing bonus, just depends on what you prefer to put on her. For substats, you want to focus on crit and HP, ER and elemental mastery. For main stats, you definitely want to go for HP on her Sans, and for Goblet, it kind of depends on what you prefer. If you want her to be a more supportive character, then you can go for HP on her Goblet, but if you want overall damage, then damage is also going to be very good. For Circlet, still depends on what kind of stats you want to give her. Crit or HP are definitely going to be the two options you want to go for. And lastly, moving on to teams. Now this isn't in any specific order, these are just the teams that can utilize FURINA, and obviously the first one I named is Neuvillette because you definitely want to use her with Neuvillette because she is basically designed for Neuvillette. Like the only best character that can fully utilize her buff is going to be Neuvillette, so it kind of makes sense to use him with her. But if you don't have Neuvillette to use with FURINA, then using her with another Hydro character is still going to be pretty good for FURINA herself. The next team is going to be Freeze because Freeze is basically an easy team comp to utilize. It would definitely be better if you are planning to use Wesley with FURINA. They can also utilize her damage buff. The third one is going to be Hyper Carry, which is kind of generically elements that buff the elements of the character that you want to increase the damage of. And 4 is basically all bloom reactions because considering that she has both AoE Hydro damage and AoE Hydro application, then no doubt she is going to be very useful in bloom related teams. But for the team that I think she's going to be the most useful in, definitely the bloom reactions one. Or if not, if you do have Neuvillette, then I highly recommend that you use him with FURINA because FURINA is definitely going to be the best support for Neuvillette. But with all that said and done, I think FURINA is definitely going to be a good Hydro character, not the best compared to what Saint Cho and Yelan can do, but nonetheless, I think she is gonna be a very good Hydro character to have, and I cannot wait for her release. And with that, that's gonna be it for FURINA's pre-release. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you're excited for FURINA's release and is planning to pull for her. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, then definitely subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video to support it. Check out my Twitch if you want to check out my live streams. The link will be in the description below. That's it for today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.